Do it. Provokah. Why waste time doing something you don't love, yeah? Look. Who stole a soul, walking roles and some doctor shows, trying to get a foothold of a footnote, awaiting annotation, pages in the book of life.
So how'd you come up with the concept for We'll Be Right Back after these messages?
I was going around, scrolling through YouTube, and I was watching, I think I saw a clip of the Arsenio Hall Whitney interview um with her and Stevie Wonder. And I thought about the cultural impact and the gravity of Arsenio Hall, and I thought to myself, like, do we have those spaces anymore to culturally, as Black people, to culturally impact across like a broad scale, and where everybody is uniformed and tuned in like at one time? And I thought to myself, in this day and age, even in the 2000s and the 2010s, I know you rebooted the show, but I was just like, what artists or what actors or what famous Hollywood starlets and everything else, activists. I know he interviewed Farrakhan. How interesting would that be if they can all sit on that couch and talk to Arsenio in the 90s? Because I know he rebooted it in that moment. And then I watched the Vice presentation of the Arsenio Hall Show and how it all broke down, how the Farrakhan interview kind of was like put him on the precipice of being canceled. And I thought to myself about prevalent topics, relevant topics to in today's climate, and how I would necessarily piece it all together and address certain topics. So that's how that all came about and came to fruition.
Okay. Um, are you old enough to have remembered the Arsenio Hall show?
I was born in 88, but
Oh,
the funny thing is my mother would tape everything, so everything is on VHS. She has like a collection of VHS tapes. She used to tape like Survivor, and my dad would tape like old boxing tapes. So what I would do is like I would, on a bored day, I'd have a VCR TV in my basement, and I'd have like an office workspace, so I just pop in interviews and just watch it. And get stories from my brother is was born in 1981, and my mother was born in 64. So she would tell me about these things, and I am a like a student and precocious enough to like retain all this information about it. So yeah, definitely did my due diligence.
okay. Did you have a favorite episode or interview from the Arsenio Hall show?
My favorite episode actually was the Ice-T interview, where he was basically talking about he sat on the couch, and this one is actually one of the clips. It's the clip for I didn't listen to the old head, and they were addressing hip hop music in terms of, how do you get this message across without not pandering to the youth, but sort of disguising the message in something that they would understand without sounding dated and antiquated. You know what I mean? So that was one of my favorite interviews. I like the Whitney and Stevie Wonder one. I actually like the Farrah Fawcett one because that put him on the map. Couple joints he did with Eddie Murphy, couple interviews he did with Eddie Murphy I liked. I couldn't find, he did an interview with Spike Lee. It's very rare. You won't find it on YouTube, but he did do one. And I was trying to like take a VHS and splice the audio, but I couldn't really get the process down. So those are some that come to mind.
Okay. At the end of the song, Fairy Tales, you
Mhm.
incorporate song titles from Common in a very clever way.
Hmm.
When it comes to lines like that, do you write those and have them in a stash, or do you write to the beat when it comes to you?
I write to the beat. And sometimes like what I tried not to do is take old writtens and place them on a new beat just to finish the song because it doesn't really mesh well. So, and I learned my lesson throughout the years as far as like taking lyrics from like freestyles and everything else and sort of praising them and mesh together. Sometimes it works, but it just doesn't make the process authentic. So I decided to and albums, forthcoming albums, I decided to just write fresh, just take my time and just, contemplate sort of how I want the direction of the song to go as opposed to just rushing the process of it all.
Okay. Um, on the song It Took, you rhyme over a classic disco record. I want to thank you. What
Mhm.
made you choose that sample to rap over?
Um, I just love the Alicia Myers song. I love that. I love that song. I listen to that song probably 3, 4 times a week because it's inspirational. Like a lot of people don't get like the gospel overtones in it. What they get was just I want to thank you, and it's groovy and you could dance to it, but it's also an inspirational record like Commodore Zoom or like Keep Your Head to the Sky, Earth, Wind and Fire. Like those are in like my lexicon of like something that gets you through the work week, something that keeps you, I listen to this music as I'm in my office and I have my headphones on just like I have now. And that's the music that kind of keeps me, going and keeps me, fresh and upbeat and attentive. So I've always wanted to find like a variant of that beat. I know Bustin' Q-Tip did it, and just the way, shout out to Talented, just the way he did it, I was like, nah, I can't pass this up. This is beautiful. I need to do something to it. So yeah, definitely always wanted to rhyme on like a sample of it, but this is the first time like I heard it and it caught me immediately. And as soon as it caught me, I wrote that record in like 15 minutes, flat, easy, the easiest record I could have wrote to because I was so inspired by it.
Okay. Um, you mentioned Spike Lee earlier, and on the album, you blend in excerpts from Spike Lee films, and you,
Hmm.
you rhyme over the Mo Better Blues theme.
Hmm.
What is your favorite Spike Lee movie?
Between Malcolm X, between Malcolm X and Mo Better Blues, to be honest, I watched Mo Better Blues. I bought the DVD. I was working at Kmart. Um, I want to say this was like 0405, and I was not all 405. That was more high school. What was it? Want to say like end like 2009. And I remember my brother had that VHS, and my mom's always had that VHS in Strictly Business. I would always, fall between those two. So once I found the DVD, like, and I was able to understand the themes and the Coltrane, usage and everything else and the fight between jazz and wanting to keep the music pure and the influx of hip hop coming in and Robin Harris and Mo and Joe like just being what's the word I'm looking for, like Madoff with the money and all the money they was making in the club, and it's kind of a microcosm of what they kind of doing now with the streaming. you know, we doing all the art, they making all the money type, type deal. So there's so many references to today, and Mo Better Blues, I think, is as relevant as it ever will be. So I'll have to say between that, and I'll definitely say Mo Better Blues, but close second is Malcolm X.
You're from Brooklyn, right?
I am from the 845 NY, and I lived between Harlem. and Middletown, Port Jervis, Poughkeepsie. So I basically lived everywhere in New York and New York City you could think of. I was
Wow.
a I was a traveling man for real. I switched like I switched like 4 or 5 schools before I was the age of 12. Yeah.
Okay. I was surprised you didn't say do the right thing. 'Cause
I would
that's
do the right the thing about do the right thing is I feel like that's just the novice choice. Everybody just love do the right thing, and I think it's his greatest film, but it's not my personal favorite.
ooh man. Okay. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
It might be Malcolm X to me is number one. That's
Mm-hmm.
definitely my favorite. But ooh, do the right thing's close for me, man. And
Yeah,
Jungle Fever. Jungle Fever's
I
close.
love Jungle Fever. I love that movie, man. Um, what is it? The Stevie Wonder doing the soundtrack
Oh my God, yes.
beautifully. I was actually I was literally just before you called, I had Stevie Wonder. I was listening to Intervisions before you called, and I just thought about I was like, man, we better appreciate Stevie while he's here, man. That's gonna because I dread the day I have to hear some happen. So I love Jungle Fever because of these 3 words, and I love like the introduction of Halle Berry. Sort of. I know she had major roles, but I feel like this was like one of the first times, besides Strictly Business, that I really saw her in a prominent role. And she did. I saw her interview on Arsenio about how she prepared for that role and how she kind of starved herself and didn't shower and all this other. So yeah. Definitely, definitely. I'm Jungle Fever is up there for me. Third for me, and fourth School Days.
He's got so many.
Yeah,
Uh, Slept On is like 25th Hour. That's another.
yeah. 25th Hour and Miracle at Saint Anna.
Miracle at
Um,
St. Anna, Inside Man. He's he's
Inside
a
Man. Yeah,
lot of great films. It's easier for me to say to Spike films I don't like
yeah,
than the ones I do because I like most of them.
yeah. Most of them
Uh,
are brilliant.
yeah, you can't forget about Sam Jackson though. He stole the show in Jungle Fever.
Oh yeah, what he dancing with the I Need Buddy. He's doing dance for Ruby D and Ozzy
Yeah,
Davis like the stoic Christian father figure and all that. Yeah, man, I miss Ruby. We don't have those anymore. The Ruby D's and the Ozzy Davises. We don't have like the couples that stay together in Black Hollywood like that. Like so, it's beautiful to reminisce and see and be like, damn, I wish I was cognizant enough and adult enough, at least an adolescent, to appreciate it. Even on get on the bus too.
yeah,
I love Get on the Bus. I
so good.
love Ozzy Davis on Get on the Bus. Yes, yes,
That's such a good movie. Such a
yeah.
good movie. And I went to the Million Man March and took a bus from
Uh,
Chicago to DC.
hmm hmm
And that movie, it was so similar to my experience on the bus. So
Oh, really? You
yeah,
had
yeah. I mean, there was no fighting, but
mhm.
you had so many different characters, man. So many
Yeah.
different, like every walk of life, every
hmm
kind of black man you could think of was in
hmm
DC.
mm
And it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. So
Yeah.
that movie reminds me of the Million Man March, my
Yeah.
experience there. So yeah,
Okay.
I love that movie.
Dope, man. Dope.
Were you aware that Spike and Arsenio didn't get along?
I was aware because of how awkward because I didn't know that Spike sort of called him an Uncle Tom. He was one of the ones on the bandwagon kind of calling him an Uncle Tom, sort of a Sambo like figure, sort of kowtowing to the man. So I was aware they didn't get along. And I also sensed the tension in that interview as well. It was very tense. It was Spike was very standoffish. And in those days, like Spike kind of seemed more more militant than he is now. You see him now, like, he's more jovial, throwing the block parties in Brooklyn and everything else. But back then, he was on timing. And if you weren't on that type of time with him, he really didn't deal with you. I mean, even the criticism he had for Tyler Perry is mild compared to the criticism that he had for Arsenio Hall. And I kind of compared the two in that like Arsenio, well, we have social media now, so many other platforms that have our opinion. You really didn't see Arsenio as an emotionalist as Tyler Perry is, and sensitive to those as Tyler Perry was. And if it was, he couldn't really voice it. He just kind of was like, the show goes on and I'm gonna continue doing my thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely, it's definitely interesting to see the dynamics now with the dynamics that you saw with Spike and Arsenio, and then compared them to Spike and Tyler Perry. Very sort of similar situation.
Similar but different. I don't want to get off
Yeah,
too
off
much into
topic,
this
but
because I really don't like Tyler Perry and I could go
right.
like so
On a
deep.
tangent, right.
I think the Spike and Arsenio thing had to do with his criticism of Eddie Murphy
Mm-hmm.
not employing enough black people. And Arsenio is his Eddie's boy, so he just
Mm-hmm.
stood up for him. I think it's that was more personal. I
Mm-hmm.
think with Tyler Perry, I think Spike believes that he makes black people look bad. And part of me agrees. Part of
Mm-hmm.
me, part of me, I see the good he does. He
Because
employs
he
a lot of
employs
people.
black people, yes.
Yes. But a lot of it is like it's cringy to me. Like I don't want to see Medea.
Okay. But
It
let me
really
but let me okay. But let me ask you this.
mhm.
When you saw what was that movie Spike Lee did that I also love with Damon Wayans and Jada Pinkett? They
Bamboozled.
had Bamboozled, right? Mantan is Sleeping Eat, and then they had Most Def as the you know what I'm saying, and all that. And I think that's what Spike sort of. I think if there's any movie that kind of compares to what he feels like Tyler Perry is, it's that.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
that. It's that.
Exactly.
So
100%.
yeah. So that, yeah, yeah, definitely. And he actually, yeah, because I remember when Eddie also sat on the couch. I saw that interview when he was talking about Boomerang and employing all these black people on the set. You know what I'm saying? That it was the original all black cast. So, shout out to Eddie Murphy for that, man. Because I know at that time that must have been groundbreaking, shocking to the system.
Definitely. Definitely. And it's a classic.
Yes.
You have a song called I Love,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you say, if you don't love yourself, then nobody will. Without a test, there's no testimony to tell the real.
Mm-hmm.
Both very important messages. How does a person that doesn't love themselves begin to?
Mm-hmm.
And how does someone struggling with life realize that hardships are usually temporary tests?
Mm. Okay, so the self-love part, I feel like I was reading The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and where he says your pain is a bricket of a shell that encloses your understanding. It is the bitter pill within the physician, within you heals its sick self. So going inward, facing those demons, and sometimes making friends with that shadow side of yourself by realizing it is a part of your evolution. And I feel like once you get that task, and once you don't beat yourself and guilt yourself and depress yourself into the ground for the foibles you had, for the mistakes you made, then you can begin to see the lessons in those. Once you see the lessons in those, it is very easy to move forward. That's sort of my journey, and that's what I've done. So I only when I speak in those terms, I also speak from personal experience as well. And that's where sort of the wisdom comes in at. And what was the second part of the question again?
How does someone struggling with life realize that it's just temporary to struggle?
Wow, powerful. Okay. And I'm still trying to figure that out myself, which is crazy. So learning to learning to deal with the struggle and learning that it's temporary is possibly only done. I don't think you fully realize it when you're in it. I think you have to, in some terms, bottom out and get to your lowest point, get to the lowest common denominator of yourself, and then you can sometimes realize there's no way but up. There's no other way. There's no further you can fall. Only thing you can do is get up and rise. And I think that is also a personal lesson for myself. And I feel like if I were to ask somebody, how do you navigate? That is what I would suggest and advice I would pass on.
Okay. Now you got a new project coming out soon. Talk a little bit about that.
Um I was well, me and my father used to watch a lot of old boxing videotapes. One in particular we used to argue about a lot was Hagler Leonard and Hagler Hearns. Hagler Hearns, I always argue that Tommy was a phenomenal boxer, and had he not rushed Hagler, he might have won on points if he would have boxed and not tried to take out Hagler. And my dad argues that Hagler was just too powerful. It was inevitable. If it didn't end in three, it ended in eight. So I'm releasing a project called Hagler Hearns um with producer Nums. And I sort of related to Hagler and Hagler's culmination of a long journey and a long struggle to the top. And as you say, like, the question of bottoming out as an artist and as a person, I feel like Hagler's ascension is also that of an underground artist trying to reach a certain status, changes his name to Marvelous because he has to believe that he's marvelous despite fighting for 300, $400 on a card where Ray Leonard is making hundreds of thousands of dollars. He has to be the B-side for most of his career. He has to read that Durant, Leonard, Hagler, and all these other boxers are better than him, and he has to deal with faulty judges and all these things to ascend and get to the top. So that is what Hagler Hearns is all about. And the Hearns fight is the culmination where everything becomes all marvelous. And this is where he becomes the best middleweight in the world and considered pound for pound the best in the world. And I feel like those struggles, those hardships shaped him and made him the fighter that he is. And in turn, with artists, and especially speaking to myself, the put downs, the jeerings, and everything else made me what I am to get to this point where I'm at now.
Okay. Last question, man. Who is the We'll Be Right Back After These Messages album made for?
We'll be right back after these messages is a specific audience. It is made for those that remember what it was like to turn on the TV and see your heroes in real time and to be proud of them and to embrace and immerse yourself in culture, a sort of uniformity. Like we may not all, like we talked about Spike Lee and Arsenio and Eddie Murphy and everybody just having these different type of ideas, but we understood one thing, that this show was important, that this moment is important, that Spike Lee's movies are important. And getting back, and somebody who's interested in getting back into quote unquote culture, the culture of us, culture of Black people, not necessarily the status symbols that, or or what I would like to call the when people the performative aspects of it, but what it is in the moment in real time. And those that remember, like even Love I Can Feel, and it took in the soul of it. There's soul and there's jazz that is reminiscent of it. So all these cultural aspects of it, and that is who the audience is directed for. We'll be right back up to these messages.
All right. Called Provokah. Thank you for joining the realhiphop.com.
Thank you, brother, for having me. Appreciate you.
No doubt, man. Peace.
Peace, peace.
That I love. What you see is what you get. What you get, you satisfied with. Yeah. Eye to eye with I and I when looking for self, it seems you seek less when you try to hide. Faking jacks, no metal arms like Mortal Kombat with good that's being tacked. It's all in that, proud to rise, east to least, and you baking on 300 degrees in a sunken place.